All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second breakout session for today. I appreciate everyone's patience. We are getting started a little bit late figuring out some tech issues. So appreciate everyone and your patience. So today we are talking about imposter syndrome and how to use it to your benefit. So have you ever stepped into a new role or taken the lead on a new project only to feel horribly underqualified? There's these feelings of self-doubt, of inadequacy, of insecurity around these professional responsibilities. And it's not only stress-inducing, but it can significantly impede your growth and your confidence at work. The good news is you're not alone. We are not alone. Nearly 70% of the US population has experienced these feelings, and that's what we call imposter syndrome. But the good news is there are strategies and resources that can help you tame your imposter syndrome and use it to your benefit. So today we have Sandra with us, our expert. She's going to talk about the science behind imposter syndrome, some strategies for combating it, and some insights to overcome that fake it till you make it mindset. Before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items to go over. So these should be kind of repetitive at this point in the day, but as a reminder, please tweet with us at NextGen.gov and use our hashtag. If you do have questions for Sandra, feel free to put them into the Q&A section. We are also hoping this will be kind of an interactive session. I know Sandra has a lot of questions for you and would love to hear what you have to say. So if you would like to send stuff directly to us, the Q&A box is a great way to do that. We also have the attendee chat. So that's if you click the group chat down at the bottom, this is a really great place to kind of see what other people are saying, join the conversation, share all of that stuff. If you have any technical issues, the Q&A box is a great place to look. Kelly my colleague, will be answering any questions you have on that end. We have all of our resources in the tab on your console as well, including the slides for today's presentation. And then, like we've said before, we will have an on-demand version of this training and every training from the summit that will be sent out to you later. For the CPEs, if you are interested in getting CPE credit, same rules as before. You have to attend this training. You have to take all the polls. There should be 3 of them today, and then complete the evaluation. The CPE evaluation for this is found in the resources console, in the resources tab right on your console. And the CPE evaluations for all of our trainings today will be in the resource center in the main environment. So if you missed the one for the lunch keynote, I know it ran over a little bit, or you missed them for another training, they're all going to be available right in there. So now that we've got through all of that fun stuff, let's get into our session for today. So joining us today as our expert, we have Sandra Achter. Sandra is a manager at the United States Department of Defense. She previously served as Deputy Associate Director for Capabilities at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. While she was there, she played a critical role in the oversight, synchronization, and development for the National System for Geospatial Intelligence and Allied System for Geospatial Intelligence. She led the strategic direction, future resource programming, capabilities planning and acquisition, innovation, research, and adoption of new technologies. Just some small things there. So without further ado, Sandra, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm excited to get into this session.
Caitlin, thank you so much for that great introduction. Can everyone hear me okay? You good? All right. We had quite an event trying to get the technical issues resolved. So, so excited to be here today. Thank you all so much. Again, my name is Sandra Achter. I'm the Director of NGA Denver here in Colorado, beautiful, sunny Colorado. And I've been with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency for 22 years. Matter of fact, I celebrated my 22-year anniversary on 4/20. And I felt like all of Colorado, for some reason, was celebrating with me on that day. So really, really happy to be here. So we're going to talk about imposter syndrome and something a little bit different in terms of some of the benefits for that as well. So imposter syndrome is loosely defined as feeling as if you don't belong, right? That you doubt your skills and abilities despite all of your accomplishments, and that you'll somehow be found out to be a fraud. I have to tell you, when I was approached about the opportunity to speak to you all today, I had a choice of topics, and I zeroed in on imposter syndrome because it's something that really resonated with me. So I picked it, and we're all planning for me to do this presentation, and then a few minutes after I selected it, I was like, wait a minute, am I really qualified to do this discussion about imposter syndrome? I'm not a psychiatrist or, an expert in this field at all. And then I just started laughing because I'm like, okay, there's definitely something to this imposter syndrome. It doesn't go away, even if you've been in your business, your mission for many, many years and you're qualified for it. You're still going to have some of these doubts. So it's definitely something I'm familiar with. So we're going to talk a little bit about the definition of imposter syndrome, some of the benefits, and then I want to broaden the discussion to talk about some of the things that are systemic that are associated with that we don't ordinarily talk about when we talk about imposter syndrome. Caitlin, can you go to the next slide? So first of all, what is imposter syndrome? So as I mentioned before, it's really doubting your skills and talents, all of the things that kind of got you to where you are today, and thinking somehow that somebody will find out that you're really not deserving of it, that you got lucky, that whoever selected you to be in your position or the school that you went to was having a bad day, weren't paying attention, and you somehow just kind of lucked out, as opposed to the fact that you actually have experiences and something to offer. You tend to feel that you don't deserve your successes. And some of the feelings around imposter syndrome are focusing on the bad things that happen with regard to your performance. Self-doubt, self-sabotage, not realistically assessing your skills, right? You can view yourself from a particular optic, but you're not seeing necessarily all of the picture. Or you set really, really high standards and challenges for yourself to the point where you're not able to achieve them, and then you're disappointed when you fall short. So it's natural to feel and second guess, your experiences and whether or not you're actually capable at your job. That happens all the time, but it's this feeling, it's sustained, and it's this feeling of getting found out as a fraud is really what defines it. So now that I've provided this definition, I want to do a quick poll. Caitlin, if you can put the questions up, based off of the definitions of imposter syndrome. And if you could just take a look, we'll take a minute and just click on where you fit in, whether you've experienced this syndrome before, did you have it before in your career, you don't really have it now, or, are you still there? So we'll give you a minute to take the poll. Caitlin, can I take it too? I'm going to take it. Hold on.
I don't know if you can from the back end, but I'd love to hear how you feel. I think it is one of those things. It's funny that I'm actually here moderating this today. Today during NextGen is my first time ever moderating any event in this way. And so I was definitely having imposter syndrome when Emily asked me to do this, and it's been just a lot of affirmations to myself of like, she asked me for a reason, like I can do this, I feel fine. So I'm sure we'll get into more tips and helpful things that you have there. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that, I don't know, for me personally, it was much more there at the beginning of my career, but it definitely hasn't gone away at all. So we have a lot of people who have answered. So let's see how everyone else feels.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
So some folks have not experienced imposter syndrome before, which is great. Good for you. Experienced it earlier in the career. And then, so I think I'm in that category, and I'll talk a little bit. I think some of the tactics that I used and I'll talk about in this discussion helped a lot with that. But yeah, and I kind of still feel like an imposter sometimes, but not often at work. So it seems like a lot of you are in that category. So I would like for you all to talk a little bit about your own experiences. If you could put that in the chat, and I'm going to scroll down and see if I can look at that too. But Caitlin, if you could go to the next slide. You are not alone. As Caitlin said before, about 70% of people experience these feelings at least once in their lifetime. And many celebrities, and I just have a few here, Maya Angelou, Michelle Obama, Tom Hanks, Justice Sotomayor, Tina Fey, who's like my hero. I love Tina Fey. all of these folks have said that they've experienced imposter syndrome. Now, the majority of the folks here that are in this picture are women, but actually men and women experience this about equally, the research has shown. The only kind of difference is in terms of when we talk about imposter syndrome, we usually talk about it with women, is because when this syndrome was first identified, it was really looking at high-performing women in the workplace and some of the feelings that they had with regard to their accomplishments, especially if it was in a male-dominated kind of area. So I just want to share a little bit early on in my career, a specific instance where I kind of first felt it. Early on in my career, I was a young intelligence analyst, and I had this new assignment where I needed to brief. It was called the warning meeting. So all of the activities around the world that happened the night before, we had to brief it the next morning. And so my first day, I knew my stuff. I had all the training. I'd been in the business for a couple of years at least. And I remember showing up to the meeting early, and it's in this intimidating conference room with a big old conference table and everything too. So I get there early, and I'm sitting here waiting and just super nervous. And so all the folks I had to brief, the guys that I had to brief, came in, and they were all, 40 plus and, older white men and, with long titles after their names. And, they had their little leather portfolios and their fancy pens, and I had my little, notebook. So it was just a completely intimidating environment. And so they come in, again, it's my first day, they don't know who I am, and they're like, oh, we're going to wait for the expert to come in here and brief. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the expert that's supposed to be briefing. And so I was like, I do not belong here. This is insane. How did I get here? And so I took a deep breath, and I said, okay, I have trained for this. I know far more than any of these men at this table about my business, which was geolin, right? None of them had the same kind of training that I had. They may be brilliant people on their own accord, but they didn't know what I knew. So I sat down and I briefed, and they asked questions. It went well, right? I do remember my voice was just shaking because I was so nervous, but everything went well, and I left after. It was like an hour. It was like the longest hour ever. And I left, and I still felt like, oh my gosh, I don't belong in that room. But it was a reminder to me all the time that, I have specific skills that I need to bring. I'm there for a reason. They need the information that I am providing to them in order for them to be able to make decisions. And so I just wanted to share that story of my, early career to share with you some of those things that you will recognize as imposter syndrome. So I'll pause for a second to look. I don't know if anybody else was able to put anything in, Caitlin, in the chat about their own experiences.
Let's see. Someone says they feel like their small department suffers from this. Another person was saying they spent 10 years in higher ed without feeling it, and then fewer than 4 years in federal service and had major imposter syndrome. I think career changes will really do that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. So if we didn't have any more, we can go to the next. Awesome. So what are some of the benefits of imposter syndrome? I like this slide because it challenges the assumptions that you have about your own abilities, right? About what you know, what you think other people know. And in the reality, it's probably fairly even, or if you're the expert, it may actually be the other way around where your circle is bigger, right? And so I want to talk about a couple of things that we can use as a positive as it relates to imposter syndrome. And, one of the things about imposter syndrome is that it can be hard for you to accept credit at work, right? So instead of the fact that you're recognizing that you have a team, that you're not always doing things on your own, be appreciative of the fact that you have people that are around you that are experts as well and that are knowledgeable. I was told a long time ago, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to leave the room. You need to have other people around you that really know what they're doing as well. And it's good that you know a lot of stuff, but you can't be the only one. All successful people have a network, mentors, and peers that they look to and lean on, and that's no different for you, right? And just because you have those people around you doesn't mean that it's not you that's done the work and those accomplishments you absolutely have, but recognize that that is something that's common for everybody. So the second thing, too, is to, when you have those feelings of imposter syndrome, that imposter syndrome starts acting up, like my arthritis or my allergies, right? Recognize that when that does happen, that means that you're in a place that you're not comfortable, right? That you're challenging yourself. And if you're doing the same thing over and over, that is not where you can grow, right? And so look at that as a signal that you're actually on the right path, and that you're in a situation where you're not completely comfortable, where there's going to be growth, where you're going to learn something new, and you're challenging yourself, and recognize that that's something that's a positive. The other thing about imposter syndrome is that a lot of times it means you're in a situation where people underestimate you. I had dinner with some colleagues last night, and one of the colleagues was relating a story about when folks had recommended, one of her teammates go and talk to her about an issue that she was an expert in, right? And I guess he wasn't paying attention, wasn't listening. And when he went to go meet her, he started telling her, about how missiles work, right? And she's like, what do you do? Like, I went to school for this. And she's just sitting here listening to him. And then, at the end, and it was funny because he was not an expert. He was new at this, which is why they wanted him to talk to her. And, and he had he was a security guard, and he had changed careers. And here she is, an aerospace engineer, right? Not just an engineer, an aerospace engineer. And he's explaining to her about her business. And she tells him politely at the end, she's like, yeah, but I kind of know how all of that works. Told him, what her background was. And I don't know what his response was, but it was something that, all of the women that were there at dinner kind of identified with. And it happens to me still as well, where people just assume that you don't know what you're talking about, and so they kind of dumb things down for you. And I do have to admit that I do enjoy sometimes, if they get to the end and I'm like, and I'll ask this really probing question, and they're like, oh, wait, she actually knows a lot more than she does. I probably shouldn't take joy in that. I just kind of do. But just recognize that can happen. People can make these assumptions, and that once they're disabused of these assumptions about who you are and your skill set, you're actually on probably a better footing, and there's more respect given there. So the last thing is that imposter syndrome can help keep your ego in check, right? I'm a senior executive. I've been a senior executive for a while now. And I love getting reminded that I do not know everything. It makes sure that I stay humble and I don't get complacent in my knowledge. And it emphasizes to me that continuous learning is a thing, and it's really, really important. So, and it keeps that fire there. So those are some of the things that I think are actual benefits of imposter syndrome, at least, again, turning that negative into a positive. All right, I think I want to do another poll. Caitlin, are we good?
Yep.
All right. Go ahead, Caitlin.
All right, so the poll is up asking which one best describes you? Have you been successful in managing your imposter syndrome? Have you found techniques and you've solved it? Has it been a challenge ongoing somewhat? We also have a few questions I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
So let's see. We have one that says, how do you overcome imposter syndrome or use it to, how do I overcome it or use it to my benefit when transitioning to new positions or environments? For example, being a federal employee, but also a military spouse. So with every PCS comes new challenges, new jobs, things like that.
Well, again, I think one of the benefits, again, is that, you have this feeling of imposter syndrome. It means that you're doing something that's, out of your comfort zone. So hooray for that, right? I think one of the things that's really important for me is, getting into those situations, and particularly as you move up into your organization, you are continuously going to be put in a position where you are not the expert, right? And so I use that as an opportunity, again, for continuous learning, right? If I don't feel completely comfortable, what are those things that I can learn about that job that will put me in a place where I'm comfortable? It's also an opportunity for me to expand my network, find those people that have those skills and abilities, that expertise in my area. They could be folks that are more senior than you. They could be other peers. They could be subordinates. A lot of times they're subordinates. My last job, we're very much into cloud, right? Cloud computing. And I knew just about nothing about it. I would do, cloud computing. I was like, cloud, like this thing, right? And so I found somebody in the organization that knew it inside and out. I'm like, you're going to be my best friend for the next couple of weeks. Really just talk to me about this like I don't know anything about it, because I don't, and, really explain it to me. So I think use that opportunity for learning, expanding your network so that you feel more comfortable. Hopefully that helps.
I think that's a great answer. I have another one too. Someone asked, what differentiates the escalation from natural casual doubt to being full-on imposter syndrome?
I think it's that part where you feel like you're like you don't belong there, like somebody made a mistake, right? It's one thing to, I used to do a lot of races and running, and, there's always self-doubt, am I going to finish this, et cetera, right? But you don't doubt that you belong there, right? And so I think that's part of where that escalates, where you may not know if you're like ready to take a test. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to be, completely prepared for this, rather than I shouldn't even be here. I'm not qualified even to be taking this test or in this, class or this environment. So I think that's where the escalation is that, somebody made a mistake. I got here by luck. And somebody's going to find me out as a fraud.
Great. Thank you. All right, let's see the results.
All right. That looks about right. Never been successful in managing it. A lot of folks still have that. Some techniques to manage it, but it's still tough. Found techniques to manage it, and it's not an issue for me. Yeah. So I'm probably in the found techniques to manage it, not really an issue. Every now and again it can be. I will say, I'm a native Washingtonian. I spent my entire life back east, and so moving out of the DMV for the first time in my life, and being, out here in Colorado, and new job, new assignment. Sometimes it depends on your situation where you feel it more than others. So, thanks for sharing it. I don't think that's too much of a surprise. People still are experiencing that. So how do you address it, right? I'll talk to you about a couple of techniques that I have, and I'd love for you all to share, for those who answered that, you found techniques too. Please share that with your colleagues, because one of the things and one of the reasons I really wanted to make this interactive is that we don't talk about this enough, right? Sometimes with trusted folks, but we don't talk about sort of, feeling in this place. We look at others and think that they have everything together and that they don't have these insecurities. And I want you all to know that there's family out there that feels the same thing. So for me, first and foremost, don't compare yourself to others. I know that's, fairly straightforward. I like to compare myself, my best self, to my best self, right? And sort of up the ante and set those personal goals. But oftentimes when you're comparing yourself to others, you're comparing your best day or your worst day with somebody's best day. It's just not apples and apples, right? Focus on your accomplishments, the things that you want to, and goals that you set for yourself, and don't do this comparison with other people. Should not be in your vocabulary if you're trying to deal with imposter syndrome. I tell my mentees, don't should all over yourself, right? And it's when you put that one word in a sentence that I think that's where all of that pressure and that insecurity comes from. I should be married by this time. I should be making this amount of money, by the time I'm 35, right? All of those things, I think, contribute to you feeling that you're not ready, that you're not prepared. And I think it contributes to that feeling of, especially if you're not accomplishing those things that you should be doing, quote unquote, should be doing. I think that is something that you just need to take out of your vocabulary. Another thing is to question really, the thoughts that you're having about what you know, what you don't know, what your skill sets are, if you belong there, and are you being rational? Are you having a rough day, right? Are you, did you not get enough sleep? Your optic about your skills and what it is that you bring to the table are going to be very limited to your own worldview. A lot of times, and I will tell you this throughout my career, a lot of jobs that I just didn't think that I was qualified for, other folks talked to me about it and said, hey, are you able to, do this, that, and they listed all the skills that I had, and they're like, you're actually very qualified for the ability to be able to do this job. Build a support structure. I think that's something else that's really important is, have your team of mentors, your peers that you can talk to, that you can bounce off ideas about new assignments. If you are feeling insecure about the work that you're doing, to really get a good sense of, if you're looking at this rationally. And then be authentic. I make sure in the positions that I'm in, from getting briefings, if there are more junior people around me, I let people know when I don't know something, right? Hey, I don't know that acronym, or can you explain this to me? I'm really not familiar with that. So people just don't make the assumption that, the boss has it all together, they know everything. And I think having that authenticity and having people know it's okay not to know is really important as well. So I don't know if other folks have shared some techniques in the chat. I just want to take a look at that. Caitlin, do we have anything? Oh, there it is. I see a couple.
I know we said, I think a lot of it is positive affirmation, reminding myself what I do know, what value I bring to the table. Alicia said kind of what you were just saying. It helps when you see supervisors and managers being humble and admitting what they don't know. It gives a breather that not everyone is perfect. I think as a supervisor myself, that's something that I've really had to having that vulnerability and that authenticity, like you were saying, of saying, I don't know that. I know when my managers do that too, it has always kind of eased the tension of oh, it's okay. No one's expecting perfection because they're not trying to be that themselves. Let's see. Someone said, I remind myself that everyone sees a problem / situation differently and that my perspective will help someone. Authenticity is difficult and not always valued. my issue is the assumption that everyone else in the room knows more than me, when actually it's never the case. I think there's a lot of really great comments happening here.
Yeah, I really, a lot of that resonates with me as well. So, I'm just looking through too. So, sorry, I'm just finding it really interesting. Melissa's like, make sure that you've eaten, and that you've had food. I mean, it's a little thing, you know. Are you overly tired? And all of those things actually really can have an impact on, you know, whether or not what you're thinking about yourself is rational. So, I think that's great. So let's move on. I want to talk about imposter syndrome in the broader context, right? So, again, I had so much fun sort of diving into imposter syndrome and not just talking about my own personal experiences, and to look and to see how we've talked about this and how this conversation has evolved, right? So, so let's go to the next slide. Most of the discussion, as I said, has been focused on the person who's suffering, quote unquote, from imposter syndrome, right? The victim, if you will. And that discussion is starting to evolve. Let me be clear. There's nothing wrong if you experience these feelings and emotions that are associated with imposter syndrome. But I want you to know that there's context, the environment that you're in, workplace culture, social inequity, systemic bias that actually contributes to that environment of you feeling this way, right? So I don't want us to completely focus on, hey, there are things that we need to do to focus on ourselves to get better, you know, positive affirmations. There are actually societal concerns that needs to be addressed that also contribute to this as well. And I use this slide with these three words, and I'll share a story with you. So my former deputy director, Dr. Dixon, she was the deputy director for National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. She's now the PD DNI, the principal deputy director of DNI. So she's moving up in the world. I had this office call with her, and she had this framed picture that said these three words on it: "You belong here." And I don't even know what we're talking about. I was so distracted by that, and it moved me so much that here's this very accomplished woman, right? She's been on the Hill. She's, you know, run her own agency. She's a deputy in this agency, right? And she's a doctor, right? And she had this affirmation that somebody on her team had presented to her. And it was such a great reminder of, for me, and I didn't ask for this, you know, if she was feeling that she was an imposter, that she was going to be found out, that, they were going to drag her out there because she didn't have the qualifications or whatever, and that it was a nice reminder for her. But it was also so powerful for me as well, right? You belong here. The choices that you have made and your skills and experiences have put you in this particular place, right? And that it wasn't just luck. It wasn't just the full moon and the planets aligning. That there are things that you did and contributed in order for you to be in this position, right? In order for you to be recognized for your skills and for folks to say, you should be here at the table. You should be providing information to me that's helpful for me to make decisions. So I think that that's something that, that imposter syndrome where you're going to feel like a fraud, having these words kind of in the background all the time, I think is really, really important. So there's not one reason why so many people have this kind of anxiety and feeling that fraud within us, but researchers are looking more and more and talking more about those the situations that create the environment where people feel like they don't belong. I could talk about this for a whole nother session, but I think it's something that's really, really important. All of these factors play into the imposter syndrome. So one of the things that I want to highlight as well is not just the folks that are experiencing it. We had a small group of you that have not had imposter syndrome before. But for all of us, what are the things that we can do to create an environment where it doesn't contribute to folks feeling that way? Do you have a truly inclusive environment? Is this a place where you can be authentic and where authenticity is a strength and not something that is frowned upon? What can you do as a colleague, as a friend, as an ally, as a leader to help create that environment if it's not something that you're experiencing yourself? And don't make the assumption that everybody, just because it looks like they have their stuff together, don't have that feeling of insecurity. So if you're a supervisor, talking to people and saying, hey, really glad you're here. We're very fortunate to have you. And I keep thinking about when I say you belong here, like somebody, grabbing someone's face and staring into their eyes and going, you belong here. Don't touch people. But really, I think having that conversation is super, super impactful because you never know how that's going to resonate with folks. So there are definitely things that you can do, whether you've had this feeling in the past, you continue to have it, or if you've never had it, to help to change that culture and environment that really contribute to it. So a couple things that I want you to take away. Imposter syndrome, it's a thing. You can be in the government for 20-some years and still have it when they ask you to do a speech about imposter syndrome. It does persist sometimes, but it doesn't have to, control your life. It can be used to your advantage, right? So when you have that feeling that you're not quite good enough and that they're crazy to have chosen you for this, it means you're out of your comfort zone. It means that you're in a place where you're growing and learning, and that's not a bad thing. And then last but not least, you belong here. The choices you've made, the people who have said, you're worthy and you're good enough, and that you have the skills and experiences to be able to contribute, those are things that I think are really important. And recognize that it's not just sort of you having these emotions and that there are systemic issues that contribute to this as well. That is really all I wanted to talk about. Thank you all so much. Thanks for what you're putting in the chat as well. I'm actually learning some things as well from all of you. I really do appreciate that. I think we got one more poll. Caitlin, if you want to.
Yes, we do have one more poll about whether imposter syndrome holds you back. Thanks so much for being here today, Sandra. I've really enjoyed this presentation. I know I think back all the time. So one of my first jobs was working as an assistant photographer for a local photographer, and I would photograph weddings with her, and she would send me off to do partial, photograph a bride getting ready or something like that. And I remember being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, yes, you do. You know what you're doing. I trust you, or I wouldn't have brought you here. And that, in ease of trust and confidence in me, I will never forget how that made me feel. And then as I've become, a manager and moved up now, that's something that stuck with me, that I always try to instill in the people on my team. You're here for a reason. I trust you. You wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in that. But yeah, so we do have a couple.
That's such a simple statement. Thank you for sharing that. But it's something that clearly that stayed with you all this time. And so doing little things like that, really can make a difference in someone's life. Thanks.
Absolutely. So we have a couple questions. Someone is asking, kind of going back to that mansplaining as you kind of story that you were telling of someone going in, how do you communicate back to that person who's kind of dumbing down the situation for you without returning that feeling?
I just like laughing in their faces. No. So I think, sometimes it depends on who it is, right? And for some folks, it's just affirming for them to be able to show how much it is that they know. And if it is somebody that you can tell, all right, they're just insecure and they need to feel better about themselves, just let them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And acknowledge that, oh, you do know something and that they're contributing, and maybe they need that affirmation. But make sure, like, so for example, for her, the colleague last night, she needed to be in a place where she's like, I'm the expert here. Somebody sent you to me to be able to share my knowledge with you, right? And so make sure that you're able to do that, and say, hey, it's great that you picked this up over the last year or so. Let me amplify and, share about some nuances that you may not know about, because I've had 15 years of experience in this, and these are some things that you should know. Now, again, I don't know how this other colleague responded, but they may be appreciative of the fact that, oh my gosh, I've just, sat and talked for 15 minutes about something that this person has, done their thesis on. I feel like an idiot. And wasn't she gracious enough to actually, say, hey, that was cute,
Mm-hmm.
but, here's what you really need to know in order for you to start to gain some expertise. So for, but if you're in a situation where you really need to kind of establish, that you are the expert, because sometimes it's malicious where folks are trying to undermine you. And again, you politely and firmly sort of, reestablish that, thank you for sharing that. What I really need to know is, because you're either an expert or you have a proficiency already, and sort of reset the room, to let them know that, I don't have time for you to go back to the basics because I did that, years and years ago. This is the level of knowledge that I need you to convey to me. And it takes a little bit of time to kind of get to that place where you can make sure that you're, doing it respectfully. I sometimes like to mess with people as well, but that's just me because I'm a little petty. But I do think that it's important to make sure that you're both gaining something from it. Does that help?
Absolutely. Thank you. So we had someone put in the Q&A that they're facing a lot of rejection in their job search, and it's making them feel like an imposter trying to get into the job field. Do you have any advice for them?
Ooh, in terms of the job search, I think, again, couching it not just in terms of, you taking it personally, and I know it's super hard, right? Because it is, affecting your ego, and you're feeling like, all right, what is it that's wrong with me? I had a situation where someone didn't get a job in my work, and they just made this assumption that, I haven't done enough, I'm not good, I got to go back to school. And I was like, I was actually on the panel that had nothing to do with where your assumptions were. There's actually probably something completely unrelated to the skills that you're bringing that is not allowing you to be successful. I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what your particular situation is, but I wouldn't automatically assume that it's some type of deficiency with you. It could be, sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's not something that's necessarily written on paper, that may have nothing to do with the contributions that you can bring.
Thank you. All right. Someone asked in the chat, what do you do when you are a good worker bee, but people are always pushing you to expand into leadership roles?
Say it one more time. I didn't.
What do you do when you are a good worker bee, but people are always positioning or pushing you to expand into leadership roles? So you're comfortable in what you're doing, but people are kind of asking you to do more that you might not be comfortable with.
So ask yourself why. Be in a rational place. Ask yourself why it is that, you know, you feel that you're being pushed for something that you're not necessarily ready for. So if it's something that you're zero interest in being a leader, it's not something that is fulfilling for you, that's one thing, right? But if it's, you know, insecurities, not feeling like you checked off all of the boxes, and there are other people that you trust, to look at that rationally and say, you know what, you actually have all the skills to be able to do this and to be really good at that. Take a step back and look at, are you just not interested in those kinds of leadership positions, that your path is elsewhere? That's a thing, right? Take that into consideration. Or is it really your insecurities about you not being good enough to be in that position, whereas somebody else is seeing that you do have those skills?
Awesome. I'm just going through some comments. Thank you, everyone, for your engagement today. It's been really nice seeing the chat so active and getting these all of these Q&As. This person asked, could the employee who knows everything but really doesn't and refuses to ask questions when they should really suffer from imposter syndrome?
So they might still, you know, again, I think for some people, and I've been in meetings before where you just have that person who has to say something all the time, like even if it's just they just need to be kind of the center of attention. That doesn't mean that they don't have their own kinds of insecurities, and maybe that's their way of manifesting their, you know, the fact that they have this unease, and that they're going to be thought of as a fraud, right? If I don't contribute, if I don't show how smart I am, people are going to think that I don't belong in this room. So I mean, I don't have an answer in terms of how those folks are feeling necessarily. I would not assume that there's always complete confidence. There are some people that just think they're, you know, God's gift, and, you know, good for them. But again, I do think that particularly as you move up, that humbleness and that ability to not be complacent about where you are and what it is that you're contributing, and being in that mode of always continuously learning, I think for folks is a lot more beneficial than I have arrived and I know everything and I don't need to continue to grow. So.
Okay, one more. We had a kind of a comment. This was earlier in the session, but someone said, sometimes it feels like it should be clear to me when I am qualified, like maybe something should go ding, like you're not an imposter. Do you think are there signs that you should feel to know that you really are in the right place?
Yeah, no, there are definitely things that I think, you know, you read the position description or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, that is me. I've done all of this. I've got this unique experience. And yeah, I can do this. It's just that I found it doesn't happen a lot, right? And that's okay. I ask folks to do this experiment. You know, go back and read for either the position that you're in or the positions that you've been in before. Read the position description, right? And then think about, you know, a year later, did you do all the things that were in that position description? 9 times out of 10, it's not. You've changed the job, right? And so I think I look at those things as, you know, it's a starting position, but it's not sort of where you end up. And so you can feel that there's a job that it's perfectly aligned. The planets have aligned. This job is like literally written for you. But somebody else who doesn't have all of those particular skill sets can come into this job and do it differently and be successful at it. yeah, there are definitely times where you can feel like this completely resonates. I can do this, no problem. And you probably will be able to do that. But for the most part, if you go back and look at jobs that you've had before and look at what the original description was, it's far different than what you've actually done in the assignment.
Absolutely. All right, well, I think we are pretty much at time for today. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us today at NextGen and for your time here. This has been an awesome session. I've loved getting to hear your experience and all of your tips for this. I hope everyone else is taking away something from this session too. Another shout out to our 2022 NextGen Partners Alliance. The logos and names that are on this slide are the reason we are able to bring NextGen to you today for free. We're very excited about this year, the first time NextGen we've ever been able to do for free. All of our sponsors are the reason for that, so thank you. And then, so just kind of final notes, this session will be on demand after this, as well as the entire session, the entire summit that will be emailed to you. So you can share, you can watch again, send your colleagues, all that fun stuff. The leaderboard, as we've mentioned before, you can earn some fun books and prizes from that by your activity. If you are interested in the CPE evaluation, getting the credit for that, go ahead and download the evaluation from the resource part of the console, also available in the Resource Center in the main environment. Those will all be emailed to you after the summit. And then if you do have any questions, feel free to go to the help desk or email us. So up next, we have our final keynotes of the day. We have two awesome speakers closing out the day for us over the next hour. So take a little break, get some water, and we will see you in the conference hall at 3 p.m. Eastern. Sandra, thank you again so much for your time today. This has been a really great session.
Caitlin, thank you. And awesome job on your first time out. You rocked it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.